printed on the matte paper, the same one as that, and that one there. And you can compare the two prints. The same image printed on the two papers. So we've just got the two papers, the printmaking rag, which is a heavy cotton rag paper, and we've got the photo variety. So they're both about 310 grams. It just depends. You pick the paper that you think will work with the image. It's quite a nice thing. Never mind the picture, feel the whip. Somebody I know in the print business told me once that if you're selling paper, you sell paper by when people pick it up. I would point out that as a photographer, nobody ever picks my prints up like this. They get the print on a wall or they get it built. So although people go, oh, that paper feels nice, do bear in mind that most people who look at the picture really don't care much about the paper. I shouldn't say that really on a stand that's selling paper, but it's the quality of the image that counts. These two papers that we've got the examples of. This is a photo rag, a Barita paper, so semi-gloss finish. Barite is a mineral. It's barium sulfate. It was used in paper to make it white. So it's a white pigment in paper. It gives weight to the paper and gives a particular finish because a lot of papers have coatings on them, and it's what's in the coating. So if you see something with Barita in it, it means it's got barium sulfate in it. There are other chemicals used and minerals that are used in papers. That paper there is a cotton rag paper, same weight, 310 grams as this one, but a very different finish. In fact, this is the cotton rag paper as well. It is cotton rags. This is a matte paper. However, images look very different on a matte paper and a glossy paper. So when you set your printer up, you need to set it up differently for different types of paper. But essentially, different images work better on different types of paper. The kind of paper that you're using really needs to match over the image, and that comes from a bit of practice. If there was a simple guideline, I could say, if you've got an image of type X, you need such and such a paper for it. If I had that, I would have written about it. Yeah, it really does depend on what you want. Now, when I say big prints, this is what I mean by a big print. This one was 14 meters long. It's printed on, it's actually on a glossy canvas, just purely as ease of mounting it in the space that we had here. And there's me down the end of it, but it's about 23 gigapixels. It's hundreds of individual pictures stitched together over 3 successive nights. How much would that cost to print? A few £100 just for the media. It's going to cost you, How much would it cost to buy off me if I was printing it for somebody? A lot. There's a lot of work goes into something. No, that was to explore how to do it, and also just to publicise my work, the kind of things I do. But that's what I mean when I say large. But that was printed on a printer this size. It took 3.5 hours to print. The reason it is that height is because the paper had a 44-inch printer. So it's 44-inch by as long as you like. I say it's just over 14 metres, and it was on a 15-metre roll of canvas. That's this image here. That was taken with a Canon 1DS in 2004. So that's an 11 megapixel image. So when people say that for big prints you need lots of megapixels, no you don't, you just need a good photo. More megapixels would make it easier to print larger, but yeah, you could do it larger, but there is limited demand for huge prints. Not really. One of the things I would say on this one we've got here, this is a TV monitor. So you can see what happens if you don't calibrate your monitor. This is an uncalibrated monitor, and you can see how it's crunched up these shadows. This is what it's supposed to look like. So the difference in tonality, this is why you calibrate your monitor. The laptop I've got here has got a different image on it. It looks different again. But that's why you calibrate things, because you want to, ideally want this to match what it should look like. Now this is printed on this matte paper. It's printed using the black and white print mode of the printer. So there's, it does use colour inks, but it's printed using the black and white print mode, as is that one there. Oh yes, this is just a simple enlargement. There is some more details, and on all of these photos that I've got here, and the other ones that we bring out with actual prints, there are articles about the making of the picture. So there's quite a long article about how this picture was made, also how this one was put together, all of it. I've got the details at the end, but they're all on our website. It just means stretched. Do you want to ask it again? When you take a picture like this, yeah, this shows a bit of pixel on it. The detail is slightly soft on it, but you can print it, you can sharpen it, and you get a print that works. This was a print, another one from 1DS. We have a print of it here, and this picture is also from a Canon 1DS, 11 megapixels, and that is it. That's an image produced from an 11 megapixel Canon 1DS print, a Canon 1DS camera, 24-70 lens. All the detail comes from care in sharpening. So there is detail that you think you can see here that isn't really there. And that's because I knew the picture was being produced at this large size. You can also, if you want to use lots of big pictures, if I take a picture, this picture was taken with a Canon 5DS, so that's 50 megapixels. If I use a shift lens, I can take two pictures with the lens shifted up and down. Now I do this handheld. I don't bother taking a tripod with me when I'm on holiday. This picture was the pier at Whitby, is two photos taken with a Canon 5DS with the lens just shifted up and down, just handheld, and stitched in flat stitch in Photoshop. Needs no fancy stitching software. I just use Photoshop CS6. I haven't bought into the CC rental model or anything like that. I don't like using Lightroom. Just use good old-fashioned Photoshop, and it does everything I need for all of these things here. The stitching on this is done using Autopano Giga, which is specialised stitching software. But for this, it's just a simple flat stitch. And I've got, from combining two images like that, I've got 80 megapixels. Now that's more than enough. Unless you're shaking your camera about or haven't bothered focusing properly, then if you can't make a decent looking print from 80 megapixels, you've got something wrong. That's a lot to play with. When I'm stitching images, that's the source images put together for the large print there. And you can see I've actually covered quite a lot larger area. We've got this boat down here. I've used a particular projection for stitching the images together that doesn't distort at the edges, so it's not a wide angle shot. This is the crop that I picked. So this is the colour image that is made from. So it was a grey day. Amongst the things I've done, I've made the sky darker. You look much darker. I've also brightened this area of the picture so it stands out more. If you look at this picture, the colour original, as to how much the village stands out compared to how it stands out there. But when I took the photos for this, I knew I was going to be making a black and white image right from the start. So as far as I was concerned, this was always intended for black and white. So the various tricks I've done, very little. A few simple layers in Photoshop, masking, a bit of vignetting, just to bring out this, to give a bit bit more detail, tiny bit of sharpening to make the picture sharper for when it's printed, but not much else. It's very simple. Once again, there's a complete article about how this picture was put together, the process that I went through, so I won't go into all the tedious detail, but I will say that it will take you longer to read the article than it took me to actually create the image. It is not that difficult. Just a bit of practice with it. You don't have to print stuff out at this size to practice doing things like this. It helps if somebody has a printer for you to play around with, but not necessarily. One thing about panoramic shots is people have a tendency to think, oh, I'll do ultra-wide panoramic shots. This is a picture that when you zoom and zoom into it, there's a lot of detail. It's the view from the Guinness Brewery in Dublin. They have a bar on the roof. And this is, central Dublin is over that way. And what I would say is that just because you've got a big photo doesn't necessarily mean it will make an interesting print. The picture has to still work as a picture. A lot of people, when they get into panoramic photography, they take big wide pictures and they sort of seem to forget everything they knew about making a picture that is interesting for people to look at. So yes, if you printed this at 10 feet high, 30 feet long, there is so much detail in it that if you knew you'd love, people would spend ages looking at it. As a picture, it doesn't work. So this is the kind of stuff I do for survey photography, because I do architectural survey photography, where it's about recording things, not about making nice pictures. But if you're doing prints, particularly if you want prints for other people, then you really have to make something that they want to look at. This picture here is the view from my loft. I was in the kitchen down below and noticed that there was a really interesting yellowy light in the garden. And I thought, I wonder what they... Grabbed the camera, went upstairs, looked out of the loft window, and this is a photograph out of the loft window. Taken with a Canon 5DS, 50 megapixels. It's using a shift lens, which is why there's not this sort of leaning at the corners. So it's a wide angle 17mm lens, so wide shot. All I've done with the image is I've opened it up in Camera Raw, and you can see I've tweaked the levels a little bit, I've added a bit of clarity, a little bit of extra vibrance to the colour, because I knew I was going to do it as a print. So prints flatten colour, so you need to bump things up a bit if you're doing colour. How much depends on the image. It took me no more than 5 minutes work to actually take the picture out of the camera, load it into that, open it up, do a few bits like this, add a little bit of sharpening, and the sharpening is actually mostly along here where you'll see it. So things like the TV aerials. The sharp TV aerials give the impression of a lot more detail in the picture than there actually is. So it's printed, and this is the first time I've seen it printed at this size. I printed it, when I tested it, I did it that size. Yeah, this is just to show that if you've got a decent camera and a decent lens, then there's no trouble at all in making a giant... You can put hours of work into doing things, but you can just take a snap. This is a snapshot. There's nothing quicker than actually just going back, looking out of my loft window and going, there we go, that was the view. And it was a phenomenal bit of cloud. I sort of posted this picture, and loads of people had seen it and noticed it. And there were several photos taken with phone cameras, and I sent this version to people who sent me the phone camera versions. One thing about sharpening, you may see sometimes it's said that sharpening is something when you open your image, raw image, you need to do some sharpening, then you do maybe some selective sharpening, and then you do some sharpening for print. That's okay for small images. For images this size, it is wrong. What you need to do is consider your sharpening right from the start. So you go right from the start. Some areas do not need sharpening. Somebody said to me, oh, you always need to sharpen for prints. Somebody who says you always need to sharpen for prints, I would say, what about that? Or that? Those areas of the image need absolutely no sharpening whatsoever. And any sharpening you do apply will only bring up noise in the picture. So why sharpen? Areas you do need sharpening though are, say, around the buildings here. That's where the detail, that draws you in. Along the top here, these aerials, just enough to give the impression of sharpness. The impression of sharpness is all you really need to give, because these prints are not meant to be viewed at this distance. Anyone who comes up to this print looks at it from this distance and go, oh, that's over sharpened. No, it's not intimidating. If you want to look at prints at that distance, then good. I'll produce prints, yeah, I can do, that's for ultra high resolution. But pictures like that, there's a level of sharpening that works for the size of the picture. So there is likewise a level of sharpening that works for this. Because if I'd over sharpen this one, you would get halos and nasty effects around the edge here. And this is just this is a much magnified bit of a picture of the sea. So sharpening has been applied here, and the sharpening actually goes well with the structure of the waves and gives an apparently a bit more detail. Okay there. Here there's no sharpening. Here the sharpening, I've just overdone it and I've just gone into the sky a bit, and you can see all that's done is just created noise. So if the sharpening's down here, you'll never notice it. It'll look fine. If the sharpening's up here, it'll be obvious. And the whole point of making big prints is to catch the immediate impact. Hate of mine, do not, when you're sharpening, watch out for halos. There's nothing I dislike more than seeing a landscape picture with a tree sticking up in it, and for some reason the tree has made the sky change colour. It doesn't happen much in the real world as far as I've ever seen. So to me it's that sort of thing that just says careless. It's something that if you see it, you can fix it. People say, oh, if you need to print something, you need to print it at so many pixels per inch and it's optimal printing. That makes much more difference at small print sizes. Once you get to print sizes like this, it really doesn't matter. So this particular image here, when I printed it at 30 inches by 20 inches, so that was that size version, it worked out at 289.6 pixels per inch. It really doesn't matter that much when you're doing big prints. If you print at 280, if you print at 420, I've done very big prints that I've printed at 108. And then, and nobody's said to me, that's far too coarse, it looks wrong. Nobody's actually said that. They've commented on what's in the picture. So when you're doing that, great, pay lots of attention to how you do it, all the workflow and everything, but remember you're producing a picture for people to look at. So yes, this one at the top here, that's 300 pixels per inch. Works fine with a printer like this. You might choose 360 for an Epson or 720, it doesn't matter. If you're really careful and you have lots of real resolution in your images, you can print at higher resolutions, you can do bits of resampling. The differences are minuscule. And certainly for when you're making bigger prints, they are swamped by the rest of your workflow. So don't read too much into when somebody says, oh, you must print at 300 pixels per inch. It's not so. If you're making large prints, I do lots of printer tests and write printer reviews. I've got reviews of all these printers. They're all up on the website. I'll put the details later. I've got some cards. But, this is the sort of test prints I do when I'm testing a printer. That's the Canon Pro 1000, which in terms of print quality is excellent. It's essentially the same as this. It has a fatal flaw from my point of view in that you can't print longer than 26 inches. So if you like making long prints at all, like this, that's an Epson P800. This one cannot print larger. It's a problem. If you want to print larger, you need one of this style. Problem with it. One of the things, when you get your new printer, do not rush out and start printing your own photos. Print some test images first. Because if you can't print a perfect test image that was prepared specially for testing printers, then what makes you think that your printer in your photo is suddenly going to look good. A hint, if you can print the test images and they look perfect, and then you print one of your own photos and it doesn't look quite right, take that as a big hint that it's your photo that doesn't look quite right. The aim is to actually get out of the so you're not thinking, oh, blame the printer. I'm afraid quite often it's not the printer, it's your photography and your editing. So by doing a test image and doing some test prints first, at least you know where the blame is going to be. You might not like it, but you know where it's going to be. If you're going for much bigger printers, this is the 24-inch version of this, which is essentially the same printer as this one, but with 20 inches chopped out of the middle. They're much of a muchness. They have differences, but in terms of if I put two prints up on the wall, you probably couldn't tell the difference without doing it. So they work for it. I test Epson printers, I test Canon printers. So I have the advantage, I don't sell printers at all, so I don't mind whether one is better than the other. When you're trying papers, pay a lot of attention to how the paper looks and how it matches your style of images that you want. This one here, it's on a matte paper because it works with a black and white one like that. If I printed that image on this paper, it would be much more contrasty. And in fact, it would probably be too contrasty for the actual scene. It wouldn't look right. So that works better on that. Likewise, if I printed this image on that, it would lose all the depth and the shadow. The precise thing that caught my eye when I looked out of the loft window and thought, oh, that's an interesting cloud, is why this works better on this one here. So look at how you handle it for papers. When you get a new paper, as I said, lots of testing. It seems wasteful, and I know when you buy a new printer, you want to rush out and do some prints and that. But try and resist it for a bit and practice doing some basic prints. And it will be well worthwhile in the long run because it will save you wasted paper and ink later on. It's a tricky thing, a lot of people don't necessarily want to do it. If you're printing black and white, this is using the black and white print mode of the printer, as is this one here. You can print with profiles, there are lots of different ways you can print, but black and white works very well these days. These are two grey cards. That's photographed in sunlight, that's photographed in halogen lighting. And I've white balanced them on the grey card, and you can see that both pictures are pretty neutral. This is looking pretty neutral given the mix of lighting we've got in here. We've got high pressure sodium, we've got daylight, we've got everything. We've got LEDs, whole mix of stuff, and it's still coming out pretty neutral. That's where printers have got a lot better over the last few years. Colour they've been good at for quite a while, but black and white has been steadily getting better. And last of all, I'm going to say, when you think about big prints, even if you get someone else to do big prints for you, think about where they're going to be shown. In this particular setup, there is about a 10-foot gap between this railing and that picture. That picture is actually a scan of 35mm film, a cropped scan of 35mm film, and it's printed at 78 inches long. The grain on it is like dobs of black ink on it, but it works at that distance. This picture, because is obviously about the equivalent of perhaps 300, 400 megapixels. This picture works relatively close. This picture is designed for being viewed from a distance. Think about stuff like that, because you look at pictures, you may take a picture this size, look at it like that, and that's the same as looking at something big but further away. Your brain perceives pictures differently at different scales. So if I take a picture that's print this size of that picture that's over there, it would look very different as a 6x4 print than it does at that distance. And how we perceive pictures varies. So you need to think about that when you're doing large prints. This was done just as a test. This is just a snapshot taken out of the window. This one was right from the start, was meant to be a large picture viewed from a decent distance. prints. That's why this one works nicely as a big one. This is here just to show that even snapshots can make big prints. But that's what happens when you actually think about it and deliberately go to the trouble of making a large print. Anyway, if anyone's got any questions, please do. I'm going to be around here all day, and have a look on the website. There are articles about the making of all of these prints, printer reviews, loads of other stuff. It's all free, so on the site there. So if anyone's got any questions, please just let me know. Thank you.